Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the show. I am a logical lefty, Jeff Waldorf, here with you, and I've got a fun show today. Um, Good news, plenty of good news. We have Mike Pillow, the return of Pillow Talk, at least for today. At least for today. We have, of course, an update on Senator Chris Van Hollen going to try to rescue Kilmar Garcia. How did it go? Well, I don't want to spoil it, but not good. I just spoiled it. What am I doing? I don't know. Burying the lead again, as always. All right. We also have a couple of big fat L's for the Trump administration in court. What is that going to mean? I don't know. It's scary things to think about. So there's that. And of course, we have more bad news for Mark Zuckerberg and his attempt to bribe the Trump administration. That is a rare, good story where Trump apparently did not take a bribe. What is going on here? So lots of surprises, twists and turns, all that stuff on today's show. With that said, thank you for tuning in. Please like and share the stream. Consider supporting us and what I do. Very, very few of the audience here. I mean, we're talking less than 1% support us on Patreon or support us through financial means. And so, y'all, I hate to ask, but I need your help to keep going because, user or viewer supported media is kind of what we need right now. Think of it as a way of mutual aid, right? To help people like myself continue to do what I think is fairly important, being able to go out there and gather this information and give my opinion on it, of course, and try to inform people and inspire people. I hope that I do that, but I need to continue doing that, and for that, need your help. Need you to sign up to become members. Need you to sign up to become patrons. Or subscribers on Facebook, etc., or on Twitch, all that stuff. So again, I cannot stress how important it is to financially support independent, progressive media, because we do not get support anywhere else. The DNC does not give a crap about us. The George Soros checks, they don't come. Okay. And so, yes, need your help. All right. With that said, why don't we dive in here? It's very not fairly. I have a headache, man. So if I'm gonna if I'm gonna misspeak, I'm gonna do it. Okay, it's gonna happen. Because my head is pounding right now. That said, the show must go on.
We'll do it live!
Goddamn right. Goddamn right. Nothing fixes a headache like coffee. Okay. Even though it doesn't, but... All right, anyway. Let's do it. The Empire of Fluff. Yes, that's right. Oh boy. Now that President Donald Trump has been back in office for several months, I think it's time to check up on an old friend.
God gave me this platform.
I want to talk to Mike Lindell.
I already know I'm going to win.
China did our vote.
No, they're not lumpy pillows.
Biden and Harris would say, hey, we're here to protect the country, and resign.
Mike Lindell's a conspiracy.
But you haven't.
Just forget about the evidence.
You're an asshole.
This was attacked.
Asshole.
That's right. It's Pillow Talk. You've got Mike Pillow, loyal soldier of Donald Trump, spreader of numerous BS election conspiracy theories around 2020. I know that seems like such a long time ago, a more innocent time, but really, was it? No. Now, was Pillowman rewarded for his work against the machines? Apparently not. On Wednesday, the lumpy pillow salesman told a federal judge that he is in massive debt and has been unable to pay the thousands of dollars in court sanctions imposed on him over the long-running lawsuit against him over false election fraud claims. That's right. During a court hearing, Lindell said that he and his company face a combined $70 million debt and ongoing garnishment by the IRS. Nobody will borrow me anymore. Not one dime, Lindell said. I'm in ruins. Well, let me just say, that's what happens when you go fash. You lose cash. Stupid. Exactly. Now, Smartmatic, which is one of the entities that are suing Mike Lindell, along with Dominion Voter Systems, of course, Smartmatic has asked a federal judge in D.C. to hold Lindell in civil contempt over his failure to pay more than $50,000 in sanctions for filing frivolous counterclaims in a defamation suit brought by Dominion Voting Systems. So both of those companies, they're after him because, well, he went after those companies first. Said a bunch of lies about them, things that just weren't true, and things that he could not prove in court. And there it is. You know, it's real FAFO stuff going on here, okay? Now, Lindell is facing both lawsuits in both D.C. and Minnesota for allegedly using his connection to President Trump and his continued false claims about fraud in the 2020 election to try to boost MyPillow's sales. So, of course, look, that gets into the question of whether or not he actually is a true believer. I think that Mike Pillow is a true believer, but also, yes, he's a businessman, so he's going to try to make money off of it as well. And that's what Dominion is alleging in their lawsuit that was filed in 2021, saying that Lindell continued to, quote, sell the lie because the lie sells pillows. Lindell has also said in court filings that at one point his company was generating as much as $300 million in annual revenue. However, apparently the good times were not meant to last. No. On Wednesday, Lindell claims that he is now living off $1,000 a week because of what he described as a campaign of lawfare against him. I don't have $5,000 or 5 cents, Lindell said. Wow. I don't know, like, here's the thing. Living off $1,000 a week ain't that bad. I do fine making less than that, honestly, because I do. Okay. In fact, look, half of all Americans survive on less than that. If we can do it, Mike, you can do it too. Or does Mikey think that he's too good to live like the Americans he claims to be fighting for? Now, as far as the allegations of lawfare, right? Well, here's the thing. The judge presiding over this case is U.S. District Judge Carl Nichols, a Trump appointee. So, now he said that he would be needing to see the financial documents from MyPillow and Lindell before ruling on Smartmatic's motion. So, if you can say, look, I really don't have the money and whatever, I can't do this, I can't figure it out, I'm actually broke and not actually hiding the money, well, that's different. That's different. Okay. Now, he gave Lindell until the end of the week to provide those documents to him in a sealed filing, meaning that if he actually does have the money and he's not giving it over, then he's in big, big trouble. But that's not all. This is just the latest in the string of legal troubles for the lumpy pillow pusher. Last month, the federal judge in Minnesota found him in contempt of court for failing to turn over discovery in Smartmatic's ongoing defamation case against him. The company says it has suffered billions of dollars in damages from Lindell's false claims that it was involved in a conspiracy to steal the 2020 election. Lindell was also previously ordered to pay a software engineer $5 million for the Prove Mike Wrong challenge. He proved Mike wrong. And Mikey no likey. Okay, the software guy that sued him has been winning case after case after case in order to try to get his money. Hasn't worked yet. Most recently, the 8th Circuit Court of Appeals heard arguments in the case in October, but has yet to rule. So, look, I think Mr. Mike here might be in a world of hurt. So, that said, I got to ask, okay, where is Donald Trump? Where is he? Remember, Mike launched himself into these lawsuits and symposiums with actions that were there to try to help Donald Trump win the election or get the election in 2020 handed to him. And this was after Lindell had given Trump millions of dollars for his 2016 campaign. So where, then, is the help for Donald Trump's softest, fluffiest soldier? It ain't coming. It ain't coming. Mike Lindell has been discarded. He is no longer useful. He is now under that bus. This is what happens when you have loyalty to Donald Trump, and that's it. When you have nothing else to give. Look, Trump is never going to repay it. All right? This guy will leave you twisting in the wind with nothing left to your name. That's it. Because once Trump has his, he's done with you. He's done with you. This is, again, FAFO of the highest degree, and I cannot think of anyone who deserves to find out more than Mike. So there you go. Let's do it. Going to the next story. If you never have an unexpected issue, it sure ain't that bad. Yeah. Tell me about it, my brother. Tell me about it, because I'm there. I'm there. All right, anyway. But talk about people that have got it worse than me. Kilmar Abrego Garcia. On Wednesday, Senator Chris Van Hollen attempted to ascertain the condition of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the Maryland man who was sent to the El Salvadoran concentration camp. Now, the Maryland senator took a trip to the country and could not find him. Couldn't find Garcia. In fact, apparently, he was barred from seeing Garcia, which makes me think that either Garcia is dead or the things that he has seen are so incredibly unspeakable that both governments are working together to hide him for fear of him detailing the horrific things, the horrific illegal things that he went through, fearing that the backlash might be too much. Imagine Garcia getting in front of a camera and detailing torture, detailing being just literally kidnapped off the street with no due process and being set. That would be enough to get a lot of people to try to maybe protest or whatever this administration. I don't know. Nonetheless, that said, Salvadoran Vice President Felix Aloa admitted to Van Hollen that the reason that they say that they will not allow Garcia to return is because the Trump administration is paying them to keep him there. Well, yes, we get money. Trump gives us money to keep this guy here, so we're going to keep taking the money and keep the guy here. That's it. Yes, we are paying to keep an innocent man in a foreign concentration camp. That's what's going on here, right? And whether or not he's alive or not. Okay, that's the other thing. I think, and this is someone who is legally living and working in the state of Maryland, by the way, who had been deported due to what officials admitted later on to be an administrative error. Now, there's something going on here. Something more. The guy is not a gangbanger. He has not been convicted of any gang-related offenses. I know that's what the administration is claiming. Oh, he's MS-13, MS-13! Except that he's not MS-13. There's no evidence of that. Both the U.S. courts and Salvadoran authorities have found no evidence linking him to the MS-13 gang. None. Nonetheless, the guy gets sent to a maximum security prison in El Salvador meant for terrorists. And now they're refusing to return him. Trump is refusing to get him back. Look, this is a human rights abuse, okay? That's what's going on. Aided by Bukele, of course. His government supposedly cracking down on crime and drug gangs with something called the State of Exception Order, right? Which has been stripping people of their constitutional rights. And it's important to talk about this because something like that could happen here. I mean, already they're waiving people's rights to due process for being immigrants. Okay. Oh, immigrants don't have due process. How do you prove that you're not that you're not an immigrant then, that you're a citizen of the United States? Well, that's due process. Okay. Where you show the authorities the evidence, the proof that you were not an undocumented immigrant, that you are here legally. But the administration does not believe in that due process. And if immigrants don't have due process, then none of us do. Because how do we prove that we are citizens if we don't have that due process? And if we don't have due process, then they could disappear any of us to a El Salvadoran concentration camp. That's why this is dangerous. Okay. Now, that said, his government is using the state of exception to try to crack down on drug gangs, right? All right. Well, again, they've gotten rid of people's unconstitutional rights. In fact, in the first year, there were mass indiscriminate arrests of people who were not gang members. Hundreds of people with no apparent connections to gangs were arrested and sent to this CCOT, this camp, this concentration torture camp, whatever you want to call it, and no due process whatsoever. This is according to a Human Rights Watch report. Arrests could stem from questionable evidence like anonymous calls or unsubstantiated social media posts, the report states. So just say the wrong thing, and they'll send you to a camp. At least 75,000 people have been arrested under that measure as of last June, according to a report from the Seattle International Foundation, an organization promoting human rights and democracy in Central America. The conditions there, by the way, according to these reports, are horrific. According to human rights reports, detainees at CCOT have limited access to even sanitation and hygiene. The lights are left on 24 hours a day, and its cells are jam-packed. Human rights organization Christosol said it has documented reports of torture, beatings, and denial of food and health care in other prisons across the country. At least 385 people have died while in state custody since the beginning of the state of exception, according to Salvadoran human rights group Soroko Gerardizo. So, I mean, these conditions are just absolutely appalling, horrific. And now American citizens, well, we might end up finding out, because Trump has already talked about sending in the homegrowns to that prison. Disaster. Now, I want to talk about why this is being accepted, though, in El Salvador. Bukele is incredibly popular in the country. Why? Because he promised, I'm going to fight crime. And then he did. Now, the problem is, of course, how many innocent people are suffering as a result. Like, this guy got rid of people's constitutional rights, protections, threw thousands of people into a prison camp, and gets reelected with 80% of the vote. How does that happen? Because people don't care. People don't care. It's out of sight, out of mind for people. Even though their government is committing human rights abuses right in front of their face, atrocities, as long as they feel safe, well, then nothing else matters. And that's what we're facing here. All right? That's what we're facing there, and what we're facing here in this country. Because if it can happen there, it can definitely happen here. It reminds me of the old Benjamin Franklin quote, you know, those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. And that's what I'm seeing with MAGA. Giving up people's liberty, you know, because it doesn't affect them. So, of course, they're giving up other people's liberty for their safety. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. Now, was there an issue with crime and gang violence in El Salvador? Yes, there was. But indiscriminately throwing citizens into a brutal prison with no due process, it's not a great way to solve it. It's a terrible way to solve it. No, you address the root conditions, poverty, unemployment, lack of family cohesion, things like that. Material conditions. But obviously, strong men just like to do the easiest thing imaginable, which is throw a bunch of people in prison and throw away the key. That's it. Now, when it comes to Garcia, though, I hope he is still alive and that somehow he manages to make it home to this country, and that the people who sent him to this horrific place for absolutely no reason are held accountable. Okay. Dead Man says, yes, that's what we're facing here, and nobody cares. I know, because you're saying it could happen here. This means that when it has happened here, you didn't care. I don't know if that's directed at me specifically or not, because I do obviously care. I don't know what you mean. Cheeto will pardon all of them. Hate to say it. I mean, you might be right. Okay. Let's move on. Wow, it's generally directed, but including you. Well, again, this is not something that I really want to like get into, but I don't exactly see how you can say something like that and be like, "Well, yeah, you were fine with it. You were ignoring it. You didn't care." Wow, that's I don't know. That's kind of a dick thing to say if we're being completely honest with that. I don't think you care that I was personally tortured by the federal government in Franklin, North Carolina. Who are you? I didn't even know that. That's fucked up. That is super fucked up. And no, that's not something that we shouldn't like uh that obviously that's fucked up. Okay. How are we supposed to know that? Like, did your story get out? Did you tell anybody about it? Or see Ashcraft versus Tennessee? I'll look into that. I will look into that. Because that is super fucked up. I don't think anybody should be tortured, or have to go through this stuff. So, yeah, I've published a book. Again, I have no idea who you are, so not really sure how I was supposed to know that. But yes, I will look into it. Let's go forward here in this. Well, we'll talk about this next story. How about that? Yeah, all right. A federal judge is looking into holding the Trump administration in criminal contempt, kicking off a potential crisis. U.S. District Judge James Boasberg said that there is cause to hold the Trump administration in criminal contempt for ignoring his orders over flights containing migrants who were sent to El Salvador. In a ruling issued on Wednesday, the judge said that there was sufficient evidence to show a willful disregard by the administration of his orders in March that directed officials to halt the flight of more than 130 Venezuelan migrants to the CCOT prison in El Salvador without any due process. Boasberg has been, of course, grilling officials about the flights, trying to find out who specifically made those orders. But he hasn't had much luck. Okay? Hasn't had much luck because prosecutors keep dodging questions, claiming, oh, they're state secrets. Oh, very, very top secret stuff here. You can't know about it. Really, over this information. Or just saying that, oh, we don't actually know who instructed the planes to keep going even after your order. So we just don't know. We just don't know. Oh, okay. Now, in his ruling, Boasberg said he was exceedingly doubtful of the government's claims to state privileges. What is the privileged information here? Well, it's not like he's asking for information about diplomatic agreements that may have been negotiated, or the flights, or any sensitive military measures taken, or any sort of strategy, if there is one. No, what he's doing is just asking for confirmation on times and numbers. For example, he asked how many passengers the two flights had carried, whether they were all deported pursuant to the proclamation, and when they were transferred out of U.S. custodies. So now, in his order, Boasberg writes the court is skeptical that such information rises to the level of being considered a state secret. Let me just point out the irony here, right? Where you had state secrets taken from the White House to Mar-a-Lago, okay? And all these Republicans are like, that's totally fine. I mean, but you got, classified material in Joe Biden's garage. Oh, got him. Oh, suddenly we care about classified material. Okay. And when we're trying to protect our very illegal migrant flights to El Salvador with no due process, we're just gonna, claim that this is all secret. Sorry, can't do it. Okay, gotcha. Right. Okay. Um, now look. In his order, as I mentioned, he writes the court is skeptical, and if it was, he noted then the government wouldn't have been boasting about the flights, all on social media and through their official announcements on Twitter/X. Look, hours after the March's court order to return the flights was issued, you had Secretary of State Marco Rubio sharing a post on social media. The Secretary of State, for instance, Boasberg writes, retweeted a post in which, above a news headline noting the court's order to return the flights to the United States, the president of El Salvador wrote, oopsie, too late. Okay. All right. Now, as a result of all of this, of course, Boasberg gave attorneys representing the government until April 23rd to comply with his requests for information. Now, what happens if he gets it? Well, he says that he could purge the contempt proceedings if the administration asserts custody over the people who were removed so that they might avail themselves to their right to challenge their removability through a habeas proceeding, giving them essentially due process, which is what they were asking for to begin with. That's what they should have gotten to begin with. Due process. Now, of course, if the administration does not comply, then he said that prosecutors should file a declaration stating exactly who made the decision not to stop the transfer of migrants. It was this guy. It's his fault. And then they will go after that person. Now, Boasberg wrote, the foundational rule of law demands that there be an inquiry over the administration's compliance or lack thereof. That rule of law, he said, reflects a belief that in the fair administration of justice, no man can be a judge in his own case, no matter how exalted his station or righteous his motives. That's a shot at Donald Trump, if I've ever seen one. Okay. Yes, he is not above the law, or at least shouldn't be. Of course, the Supreme Court begs to differ. Now, the judge also wrote Wednesday that he had tried to give the Justice Department multiple chances to rectify or explain their actions since his original order in March, but they refused to do so, leaving him no choice but to consider criminal contempt. Yeah. Okay. Now, the Supreme Court sided with Boasberg in this issue. Now, he wrote, the Constitution does not tolerate willful disobedience of judicial orders, especially by officials of a coordinate branch who have sworn an oath to uphold it. Allowing officials to freely annul court orders would make a solemn mockery of the Constitution itself, he added. Well, to be fair, everything about the Trump administration seems to make a mockery of the Constitution, so what's one more thing? Trump is the kind of guy the founders did not want into power, okay? Because he has no respect for separation of power, no respect for the Constitution, and no respect for the American people. None. None at all. That said, what is going to happen if he orders the administration into contempt, okay? Well, typically criminal contempt involves fines or imprisonment. That said, Wednesday's order did not mention any specific punishments, but did explain, without too much detail, that there would be a couple of ways that they could go about it. Federal rules for criminal procedure do state that contempt proceedings can be prosecuted by an attorney for the government, should the Justice Department refuse or decline to assign someone to prosecute the case. Boasberg said then he would appoint an outside attorney to do it. Okay, that said, would Trump be, held accountable? No, he would be immune to any consequences. But that doesn't mean that others could not be held accountable. Donald Trump is not acting alone. Anyone in this administration that is involved could be hauled off to defend that decision in court. And if they don't, look, I'm very worried what will happen if they do ignore that order, though, and are held in contempt. And then, of course, when they ignore that, what's the next step? Who's going to enforce this? Where's the enforcement here? The DOJ is a Trump DOJ filled with loyalists. The rest of the government is a Trump government filled with, you guessed it, loyalists. So what's going to happen? This is my fear, okay, that we go headfirst into a constitutional crisis where the administration goes further into authoritarianism by ignoring the Supreme Court, the same court who, ironically, gave Donald Trump immunity from any prosecution for official acts in order to get him out of the legal trouble that he was already in. Turns out, just like we were saying, it's a real bad decision that we as a country, as a nation, as a people, will continue to pay for. Okay. Here we go. It appears the Trump administration is taking yet another L in court, this time involving frozen funds to clean energy projects. And now lawyers for the administration claim that there was massive fraud in a Biden administration clean energy program. Now, where is the fraud, you ask? Well, it's the fact that money is going to solar panels and energy efficiency upgrades for small businesses. That's really it. That's not fraud, you say? Exactly. But the reason that they don't like it is because they don't want money going to clean energy at all. The order from Judge Tanya Chutkan on Tuesday unfreezes roughly $20 billion in funding that was set aside to 8 nonprofit organizations. Now, these organizations sued both Citibank and the Trump administration over this freeze. Now, Citibank says, we'll gladly release the funding if the court tells us to do so. Yeah, but the government's telling us to hold on to the funding. And so what am I going to do? Am I going to ignore the government or what? And so I can see Citibank, yes, they're in a difficult position. Okay. Now, Chutkan found that the EPA had unlawfully terminated the program and ordered that the congressionally appropriated funds be unfrozen by, 2 p.m. on Thursday and distributed to the nonprofits that they were originally intended to go to. Now, a Trump administration spokesperson said in an email they had intended to appeal this, writing, the D.C. court does not have jurisdiction to reinstate the $20 billion in Biden-Harris gold bar scheme. What? Which is further amplified by a recent Supreme Court decision. These grants are terminated, and the funds belong to the U.S. taxpayer. We couldn't be more confident in the merits of our appeal, and will take every possible step to protect hard-earned taxpayer dollars. Really? Why not just have Congress do it then? I mean, Congress could pass a law that claws back the funding. They could do that. Why don't they? Because Congress, even Republicans, yes, do love these projects. Because these projects are infrastructure. This is jobs and investment in their districts. So, of course, they love that. But that's why the administration hates it. Because you got fossil fuel people like Lee Zeldin, who runs the EPA, trying to get rid of this. Trying to get rid of congressionally approved funding. They don't want these clean energy projects at all because that threatens fossil fuel interests. That's right. But because Congress won't take up the bill to cancel the funding, the administration is just going to attempt to take that power away from the legislature, taking that power of the purse, which does not belong to them. This violates the separation of powers. Now, that said, I was curious about the $20 billion gold bar thingy. Well, what is that all about? Well, that stems from a video taken by Project Veritas. Ah, yes. In which a Biden-era EPA employee compared the rush to get Congress's climate law funding out the door before Trump takes office to tossing gold bars off the Titanic. Well, that makes sense. I mean, yes, get the funding out the door that was already approved, but hey, let's actually get it dispersed now. And so be in accordance to the law, because we know that the next guy is not going to allow that money to get out the door. And that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened. Okay. But Zeldin, back in a Fox News interview in February, said, well, this is a clear-cut case of waste, fraud, and abuse. The entire scheme, in my opinion, is criminal. Really, what law did they break? None. You're breaking the law, actually. We found the gold bars. We want them back. Okay. That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't prove that it's criminal at all. It's congressionally approved funding. The only reason they had to rush to get it out the door is because they knew Trump would try to stop it. Okay? And that's exactly what happened. That does not constitute fraud. Okay? Now, during the hearing, Chutkin pressed DOJ attorneys on whether the federal government had found any evidence of widespread waste, fraud, or abuse in the program, as Zeldin alleged. The DOJ's attorney, Mark Sachs, had to admit that, well, we don't actually have any evidence of waste, fraud, and abuse. To which Chutkin told DOJ attorneys at the hearing, here we are, weeks in, and you're still unable to proffer me any evidence with regard to malfeasance. Because of course not. But you know how these Trump administration lawyers operate.
Just forget about the evidence.
That's really it. That's really it. Okay. Just forget about the evidence. We don't like it, so we're going to call it fraud. It turns out that does not pass muster in the court. I know. Now, she added that the government has shifted its reasoning for cutting off grants to the 8 large nonprofits, from citing evidence of wrongdoing to citing a change in administration policy. Oh, right. We can't actually convince people that, it's waste, fraud, and abuse because it actually isn't. We don't have any evidence of it. But now we changed the policy. But you didn't pass a law. Congress did not pass a law to rescind the funding. Therefore, the funding still must go out. Now, Chutkin also called out the administration's failure to give awardees advanced notice before announcing the cancellation. Because, these nonprofits, they spend their own money. And then they get everything set up and expect that the government will honor the contract and award them the money. But that's not happening. And so, of course, that gave these nonprofits the standing to sue. Okay. Now, Chutkin told DOJ attorneys if the EPA had concerns about oversight and funding, the way to do it is either get a court order, which you didn't do, or go through the procedures for termination. You haven't done that. You're putting the cart before the horse. Look, that's because they don't have a real argument. They just don't like this spending. That's it. And there's other ways to shut down spending that you don't like. But Republican Congress people, I don't think they want to do that. Because the thing about the IRA, okay, is that it benefits a lot of Republican states. Missouri, Indiana, Utah, Ohio, Georgia, North Carolina, among many others. The projects that are awaiting these funds are things like installing solar panels on churches. Okay. Upgrading the aging refrigeration systems of small grocery stores, which saves them money, saves the business money because they spend less on energy. That's good for everybody. But understand that this is the kind of stuff that far-right zealots fear the most. That common sense things like upgrading stuff to be more energy efficient, households, businesses, etc., and using less energy, they're afraid that it's going to become popular. And so they have a monetary and ideological incentive to try to put a stop to that. They cannot allow the libs to be correct because it means that they were wrong. The whole sunk cost fallacy. Oh, I already put so much, time and effort and belief into fossil fuels, whatever. Sunk cost fallacy. I can't back away from that, or else it would mean that my entire beliefs of the whole time were wrong. And I can't do that. Can't let that happen. Okay.
Can't let that happen.
There we go. And not only that, but of course, these same people are paid by fossil fuel companies to try to stop any kind of progress that threatens these fossil fuel companies' profit margins. So that's it. Now, that said, there is a real danger, though, in Trump still not releasing the funding as ordered. He's already been ignoring the courts. So I am concerned that this, among many other examples here, is going to kick off a constitutional crisis, right? Where the executive branch is going to continue to try to ignore the judicial branch and fully transition our country. We're already at the beginning here, but to fully transition our country into an autocracy that is led by the executive branch, which will become essentially a monarchy. Not a good thing. Okay. Is this live? Yes, it is. Indeed. Of course, those who are listening on Patreon later, who can, download it or watch the stream later, won't be live. So, but right now, we are live. Yes. Please like and share if you haven't already. Very important that you do so. Also, consider super chats. All right. Moving on here, let's get to the last story. Okay. And it's Zuck. It appears that Meta's CEO, Mark Zuckerberg, will not be avoiding an antitrust lawsuit trial. See, he'd apparently been trying to avoid such a thing, even offering $450 million to the FTC to avoid a trial, to settle up, okay, and even after trying to lobby Donald Trump personally for his help. Of course. In March, the Facebook founder had called the head of the FTC, a Trump appointee, to see if he could work out a deal to avoid trial over what the FTC alleges was a breach of antitrust law when it acquired Instagram and WhatsApp, according to a Wall Street Journal report. Zuckerberg offered $450 million. The FTC, however, wants far more than that. About $30 billion. Wow. Now, Zuck had previously met with Trump at Mar-a-Lago back in November, and, with the hopes of trying to butter him up and to get on his good side. He even donated $1 million to Donald Trump's inaugural fund, as well as making the announcement of getting rid of DEI policies at Meta, and of course, fact-checking on the platform, trying to become more like Twitter/X. Okay. Oh, we're gonna do community notes. That's what's gonna happen. That's gonna be our fact-checking. Okay. So this is all stuff that was trying to appeal to Donald Trump and conservatives, right? And not only that, but The tech billionaire also met with Trump officials at the White House in February and March to try to lobby them to support taking the company's $450 million deal. Apparently it didn't work. Not only that, but they tried to sweeten the pot by upping the amount to $1 billion. $1 billion. Still a lot of money, but not $30 billion. Okay. Now, the FTC was like, no, we'll settle for no less than $18 billion and something called a consent decree. The two sides then attempted to negotiate a settlement with Meta, reportedly offering to change some of its policies. But at the end of the day, the FTC is like, no, we're still going to take $30 billion. Sorry, not sorry. Oof. Now, that said, it is unclear whether or not Trump had supported Meta's $450 million offer. But those familiar with the matter told the Journal that the president was open to striking a deal with the tech company, but the FTC said no. Ultimately, Ferguson, who was the head of the FTC, White House officials, and Justice Department officials in the antitrust division, convinced Trump to allow the FTC's lawsuit against Meta to move forward to a trial. Good. Look, as much as I despise the Trump regime, and as much as I call out their corruption, this is both an unexpected but very happy development. Yes. Look, to see Zuck grovel at the feet of Donald Trump and to see him get wrecked anyway is awesome. It is hilarious, and I love it. Just plug it into my veins. Okay? And I'm not the only one who's happy about this. Former FTC chair in the Biden administration, Lina Khan, is pretty thrilled. She criticized this attempted bribe, calling it, quote unquote, delusional. Quote, Mark bought his way out of competing, so I'm not surprised that he thinks he can buy his way out of law enforcement too. Look, he's still going to trial now, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him try to make another offer. Interesting. And maybe, I don't know, maybe there's still a chance for him to buy his way out of it. But as for right now, the trial goes on, and I love it. Now, the FTC's lawsuit against Meta alleges that the company had accumulated monopoly power, which is true, through anti-competitive behavior since Facebook purchased Instagram and WhatsApp in 2012 and 2014, respectively. Look, big tech is too big, right? And that is one thing that I actually do kind of see eye to eye with some of the people in the Trump administration. I do think big tech is too big. I do think that they're anti-competitive. I do think that these companies, whether it be Meta or Google, whatever, should be broken up. Not for some of the weird reasons that they have, like, oh, they're big tech's all left wing. Blah. No, that's ridiculous. Sure, did some of them support Democrats in office? That doesn't mean they're left wing, because Democrats are not all left wing. Okay, a lot of very, very pro-business, pro-corporate Democrats, all right, that I have a problem with. And a lot of them did take money from these big tech people before they decided to throw their lot in with Donald Trump. And I think it's pretty obvious why. Because Donald Trump and the Trump administration does not agree with regulation. Okay, they want to deregulate. They want to give tax cuts to billionaires like Zuckerberg and like Elon Musk. But apparently their hatred for Zuckerberg for once, I guess, donating to Democrats and, doing fact checking and things like that has completely spoiled him when it comes to the right being able to make a deal. Right? That's just not going to happen. Just not going to happen. And so the thing is, yes, they should be broken up. At the end of the day, that's the right decision because you don't want these monopolies. They are bad for consumers. They're bad for average people. But I am kind of surprised still that Trump did not take a bribe. I'm always surprised when if Trump doesn't take a bribe, because you know that he loves money, that he loves taking corporate money, that he loves taking bribes, but I guess not from people like Zuck. I don't know the exact reason. I don't really care, because at the end of the day, what really matters is watching Zuck get wrecked. Okay. It's funny how they announced it. You'll now need a, I call it shitter, account to contact Social Security, and then announced that it might get rid of DMs. Yeah, and one of the reasons that they're getting rid of DMs, and I didn't do this as a story, as a video, but Zuck, sorry, not Zuck, but Musk had tried to get another woman to DM her, and I forget her name. Sorry, it's like I'm just having hell of a day today. Not a good brain day. But like trying to get this woman to have another baby with him, and she said no. He didn't like that, and so not only did he punish her by getting rid of her ability to make money from the platform, but also was like, well, I should just get rid of DMs then. I know, because it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing for him, and that's one thing that people like Musk cannot handle, is getting embarrassed, because they have everything else. They have all the money, they have a lot of power, but they cannot handle being embarrassed or being told no. Not baby, Legion. Yeah, no, you're right. The Legion. I heard about this, and the Washington Post reported on this. Yeah, absolutely just devastating. How dare you reject my seed? RB, that's exactly what it is, too. How dare you? But anyway. No, it wasn't Ashley St. Clair. It was someone else, and again, I cannot remember for the life of me the name right now. I'm sure I'll remember later, because that's usually how things work. But no, it wasn't Ashley St. Clair. She's another one who was feuding with Elon Musk. But no, it's someone else. And again, it just shows you how sad and pathetic this guy is. All right. But that's it. I am gonna go get these videos put up online, so please check them out. And then I am going to figure out a way to get rid of my headache, because oof, we can't even keep up anymore. Too many women. It's true. It's very, very true. He did say that he's creating a legion of Tiffany Fong. Thank you, Cerise Rose. That is exactly the woman that was like, no, we're not going to do that. I'm not at all interested. And he no likey that. So thank you, Cerise Rose, in the chat here. Elon was rejected by Tiffany Fong. Yup. Oh, what a disgusting creeper piece of shit. That's who Elon Musk is. All right. Anyway, thank you for watching the show. Please like and share the stream. If you haven't already, please consider becoming a member and supporting independent progressive media, over at our Patreon, patreon.com/jeffwaldorf, as well as maybe becoming a member on our YouTube channel, or becoming a subscriber on our Facebook. Yes, I still use Facebook. And I love those of you who are members over on our Facebook page, who share our stuff. Trust me, y'all are great. And thank you. I appreciate it. And of course on YouTube and on our Twitch channel as well. All right. Thank you all. Love you. Take care of yourselves, your communities, and your families and friends. Take care of yourselves and live to fight yet another day. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.